what's up, y'all? It's Ari here with Med 2. We're going to talk about Med 1 Tea Talk today. This is my second video on this. My first video you guys saw was with Tania. She was a pre-med student. And today on our Med Talk, this is our second episode. Today on our Med Talk, we have Mr. Noel Hawkins here. He's a fellow Med 1 student, and he's just going to tell you a little bit about himself. And then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of being an IMG, being Black in America, and also kind of just doing our thing at the same time. So Noah, take it away.
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Noel Hawkins, and I'm from Palm Springs, California. Shout out to them. I love it. If you have any time, go visit. Definitely, I'm 24 years old. Fun fact I usually tell people is that I'm an African American who used to work at a Chinese American cuisine restaurant while learning Spanish. So I know my way around a little bit. And as she said, I'm a current first year at Universidad Autónoma de Guadalajara. So UAG, go Tecos. And yeah, that's a little about me.
That's fun. All right. So I know when we talked before, we kind of got into being an IMG. That's what we kind of bonded on the most, being an IMG. And of course, being Black, not only in America, but in medicine. You already know how it is. We're a part of the, 10-15% of us there is around the world. And so I think it's very important just to touch base on this. And of course, I wanted to have you because you're a fellow IMG and you get it. You get it. There's this understanding between all of us in medicine. So you kind of just get it. So I really wanted to touch base on that too, but I also wanted to know what's your path? Like how did you get to where you are? How did you get to being this great macho man in medicine?
Thanks for the compliment. No, my story is very simple. I grew up in a very kind of like strict household where my parents always strove for excellence. So I pride myself on that. And one of the things my parents told me, especially my mom, was like never like take no for an answer, as well as don't like basically a cuss word in my house was the word can't. So we could never say we can't do something. And so that kind of gave me like the foothold to always like keep expanding my mind and be like, oh, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that. Like in my early days, I was a kid who was a concurrent student in high school, taking 5 AP classes: bio, micro, economics, push,
In high school.
Latin, yeah, and a college English class. So I've always been that type of dude. And then even in college, I was just like, oh, why don't I just do biochemistry as a major? Like, let's just go for it because it's the hardest major I heard, and I'm pretty tough, so let's go for it.
Oh my
Um,
God. You're like literal top tier, like medical student. This is what they look for in an applicant. They look for people like you, I feel, that started out in high school with all the economics classes and bio and microbiology and then kind of made your way up. All hail to you, props to you, because I don't know. I couldn't do it. I said it in my last video, but I'll say it again. I started off, actually, not many people notice, I started off as a nursing student. So I had that imposter syndrome where I've always wanted to be a doctor, but I was kind of like, I don't know, I'm scared to go to med school. I don't think I'm going to do well. I don't think I'm going to do good. And so I let that imposter syndrome get to me a little bit. And so for my nursing classes, I actually excelled in them, but I realized I was thinking more so of diagnostics and looking more into the body and cellular level and different things like a doctor would do. And so that was my ultimate decision to become a doctor. But it must have been pretty cool for you just starting out in high school with those classes and having just that exposure. How was that?
oh yeah, 100%. And it was very. I had my favorite teacher, if anyone's listening from Palm Desert, Miss Machuzik. She just was very raw and honest, and very encouraging, and I still keep up to her to this day. I just cultivated me and just like, oh, if you have a really good passion for this, go for it. She would always like tell me my different routes that I'd have in medicine, and just like gave me a realistic look. So we'd be learning about mitochondria, and I'd be like, oh, it's just a powerhouse cell. And she's like, no, if you want to go this path, you got to know there's a bunch of like carnitine shuttles with it. It has
Mm-hmm.
different other functions. And I was just like, oh, wow. And it just made me more
We're doing
curious. And
this
then you're
type of
no,
medicine.
exactly. So I,
Mm-hmm.
I always love how there's just more going on it. And I'm just an active learner. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very important too because I'm also a fellow learner. I really love reading as well. And so I'm always trying to learn something new or figure out a new hobby. Fun fact, I just taught myself how to figure skate not too long ago. So I just learning how to do things as an adult is what really interests me the most. And so they say for medical students and medical doctors in general, you have to be lifelong learners. And so I think too, like a lot of people would just really love the aspect of medicine. You really have to love what you do in order to do what we're doing. Because if not, you wouldn't go through with it. You wouldn't want to do it. It would be like, what's the point if you didn't really love what you're doing? Of course, you love saving people and having that whole complex where you get to save someone's life and help someone out. That's great and all, but if you aren't interested in the sciences, period, it's a wrap.
Facts. I'm gonna like on a note on that. This is tough. I'm not gonna lie. So when you're going through this, you have to be doing it for yourself because it hits you a lot. Like a common phrase that they say is that medical school is like drinking water out of a fire hydrant, and it's exactly that. Like um, going on like 2 weeks now, I've had an eye twitch, under so much stress of everything I'm going under. And there's days that I'm just like, oh my like goodness, like what did I like put myself in? Good thing I caught myself really quick. But yeah, basically, yeah. So you're gonna have those days. Don't be like, oh, where are these out of the blue? Expect those days to come, and just know if you're doing this for yourself, it's 1,000 times easier than doing it for your parents, because then you're gonna be like, all right, why am I spending like 12 hours a day studying? This is not for me. You
Yeah. Why am I doing 300, 400 flashcards a day, doing practice quizzes? What's the point of me doing this, you know? And same thing with you. I've been in school for about 2 weeks now, so it's funny that we're literally on the same path. I've been in school for about 2 weeks now, and that whole fire hose scenario, I got that the first day. First day of class, the first PowerPoint slide, it was like med school is like a fire hydrant. You can try to get all the information at one time, but it's gonna hit you. Med school hits you
know?
like a truck. It does. Not to scare you, but med school absolutely does hit you like a truck. And if you don't know your learning style and how you study and the ways that you love to learn, it's probably going to be harder for you the first couple of weeks just because you have to adjust. Adjusting is a major key. Also, figuring out what you want to do and your learning style is hard too. So if you didn't get that down pack in undergrad, you kind of have to get that down pack now. It's very important. I know it was important for me. I'm more of a kinesthetic auditory learner. So I realized, they make for my school, they make lectures. Some of them are mandatory, some of them aren't. And so for me, I was like, you know what? I'm going to lecture regardless. I have to hear. I have to see what you're doing. And so there's people like me, and then there's other people, who like to read the textbook, who like to write stuff down. So I think it's very important to just figure out why you're in med school and to learn yourself a lot because as doctors, we not only have to know ourselves, but we have to know our patients too. So that was actually a good key that you brought up there.
Yeah. So just prepare you guys because there's a lot, a lot that they don't tell you. Or one of the biggest things is the chronic fatigue because I didn't believe it, but definitely it's hitting me, and I'm just like, why am I always tired? I'm getting 7 hours of sleep, and I'm still tired.
You
So
got the chronic fatigue. See, I feel like it hasn't hit me yet, but during the weekends I do like to sleep an extra like 3 hours because every day my lecture starts at like 7:30 in the morning. So every
mhm,
day I'm up at like 6 o'clock, 6:30. And so when I do get that extra 2 hours of sleep on the weekends, I'm like, all right, I'm sleeping, nobody bother me. This is it. Like
yeah,
throughout the week, it doesn't hit me throughout the week because I'm moving, I'm up, I'm active. But the weekend, no, it's so hard to wake up during the weekend.
so
Like I,
yeah.
I definitely, I definitely understand that. I didn't think it was an actual thing. But speaking of like times and everything, let's get on to the topic of like IMGs and like timing difference and just different cultures, difference in general. What's the main thing that you noticed about being in school where you are as opposed to being in American school systems? Like what's the major thing? Because I know a lot of people kind of not necessarily look down on outside of American medical schools, but they kind of have this stigma where we're not going to do as well on our exams, like our step one, our step two, we're not going to match as well. So, what do you think is like the major difference or something that people are seeing that they may be scared of to study outside of their own country?
Yeah, of course. Basically, like to touch on what you said. So I actually looked at the numbers yesterday. So typically the numbers people are scared of is like the step one pass rate. So
Hmm.
for IMGs, it's typically 78%, and then for US students, it's like 95, 96, I believe, and DO students, it's a little bit lower.
Hmm.
Um, but that being said, it's more of just like, oh yeah, that's a huge like decrease of like why is it so lower for IMGs? But it's more of just like the it's like life. You're gonna get what you put out of it. So if you put in the maximum effort, you'll be fine. Like particularly my school, I know the Caribbean schools are modeled off the U.S. system. So we all have to be modeled off of that. We learn the same material. Didactics is exactly the same, and you the last 2 years of this school, you also rotate in the U.S. So the timeline is exactly the same. It's just you need to be putting your effort to study the material and learn what you have to do. Don't going to these schools thinking like, oh, I got in and I had like I barely scooted by and I had like a 2.5 and X, Y, and Z. Like if you don't put in the work, you will like get behind and you will fail.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. And I know for me too, one of the main reasons that attracted me to not only studying abroad, because I did an undergrad as well. I studied in England for about 6 or 7 months when I was studying midwifery and nursing. But for me, what attracts me to just other countries is the healthcare systems. I really love the global health aspect of everything. I like being in another country and seeing how different they are from my country, if they have health insurance, how many medical examiners or doctors they have, stuff like that interests me. So for my particular program, I got accepted, of course, to the MD program, but I also got accepted to the global health track. And pretty much it allows us to not only travel the world while we're studying, but we get to study in another country. We get to study, in whatever country technically that we want to go to that they send us to on mission trips, we get to do that. And so I think
Mhm.
that's one of the perks too with being an IMG. You get so many opportunities to just study abroad and learn a different culture. And cultural awareness is so important for that patient doctor relationship. So I think for us, we got. I believe IMGs and people who decide to go against the grain and not go to traditional medical school. I believe we absolutely do have a lot a lot in common, and we do have a lot of things that we learn over time, more than you can just learn like in your own country. So IMGs for me, it's a subject that really touches my heart. I don't know if you can see it, but it just really touches me because I'm like, I really like the fact that there's people out there who are willing to go beyond themselves and go to other countries and to learn their culture, learn the language, learn what they like to eat, what they drink. It's just something about being able to connect with other people in the world. It sits well with me. That's something that I really see for like IMGs. And so I really wanted us to touch base on that too, because a lot of people are scared. They're genuinely scared to become an IMG. They think just because they're not going to American medical schools, they're not going to be successful. Well, that's not the case. You and I, we're living, breathing proof. We're gonna be proof, in the next 3 years. So it's like, go for it. Go for your dreams, especially if you get into any medical school. That's a success because medical schools are hard to get into. You have the MCAT, you have your exam scores, the type of person that you are. Every medical school looks at that. So it's not that Caribbean schools look at it less or Mexico schools look at it less. It's not the case. It's just the fact that all of them look at you as a holistic approach type of person. And so either way you look at it, it's hard to get in medical school. And that's kind of just my take on like IMGs and all of that. And so being an IMG, it just I don't know. I really like the aspect of that. I like of course being in America, but it's like having the opportunity to help more than just my people, it just really it does something to me. It pulls my heartstrings.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think it's something everyone should experience because my mindset has definitely been changed from being there.
Really, what's like one example where it's kind of just shifted for you? Like, what was that moment where you were just like, okay, this is really different?
I would say just like the feeling of when I meet people here and realize we're going through the same struggles, the same like problems, and it just makes me like connect with everyone on like humanity kind of level where I'm just like, oh, we're all similar, we're all the same. There's not really like that division. Like, I'll be at home complaining about, like, oh my gosh, like bro, like, did you hear what, such and such said? And then over here they're doing the same thing. It's like They're
Mhm.
worried about bills, they're worried about family. Like I just love how similar I am.
Right. Yeah, you think the moment you think you're so different from everyone else, and then you go into their culture and you're like, gosh, I have a Ronald in Virginia and there's a Ronald here in Mexico too. So it's like everyone pretty much we have similar cultures to each other and we don't even realize it until we go out of the way and try to become more culturally aware. And I think that's very important too in 2022 because of course we know it's Black History Month, so I'm probably gonna put some like a hand clap of praise in here somewhere. But it's like it's Black History Month, and just being Black in general, we have a lot of culture behind us, and we also have a lot of diversity as well. And so, for just to be Black and in IMG and in medicine, it kind of just all takes a toll. It all kind of just plays a role in what makes us doctors and makes us unique. So,
Mhm.
with that being said, how do you feel about being Black in medicine? What's your
Uh,
take on it? How do you feel? What's the tea? What's the stories that you have gone through? I want to know it all.
I would say like I see it as a symbol of pride. Honestly, I love being Black in medicine. I think it's one of the coolest things ever. I think we're ridiculously strong and resilient, and we can literally do whatever we put our minds to. And overall, I just think also to sum it all up into one word is perseverance, because this is a long road. But then again, I think Black is beautiful, Black is strong, as my mom says, and like I mean,
Yes,
anytime something goes wrong, I'm just like, I got this, like, people do this all the time, and we're being a trailblazer because I think this is very important
absolutely.
for representation for the culture. I don't
Yeah,
know if you remember 2019 or 2018 when Black Panther came out, like how important it was to see like a Black superhero on TV, and I kind of want to be that for future generations. I think it's very important for the younger generation to see Black men and women in these positions of like um, just great positions and healthcare providers, because without seeing it, sometimes you don't get the answers like, oh, maybe I don't know if I see myself as that. I don't know if I can actually do it. And it's like, yes, you can. Like, I'm living proof of it. And like, let's get more people of culture into this career.
yeah. Like let's do it. Let's go. And just to piggyback off what you said too. So for me, being a Black woman in medicine is everything because a long time ago, Black women were bottom tier. We couldn't even speak without making ourselves known in a room. We couldn't speak up for ourselves. We couldn't have an opinion. And so now that we're able to talk and speak and have our own patients, I think that's 100% great. My ancestors are screaming in heaven right now. That's something that's really it really gives me pride too to be a Black woman in medicine because it's like that sense of I said this in my small group maybe a week ago when we had medical small groups. I stated that it's just it's a unsaid understanding between Black people and medicine, like Black people in general. We have this understanding when we see each other win, when we see each other fighting and doing all we can, we're just like automatically like praising them, like, okay, yes, you can do this, queen, you got this. We come from a long line of strong people, strong Black people. And so during Black History Month in particular on my Instagram, I've been shouting out people, I've been shouting out, praising myself, because it's like we've come from so much being Black, having to go through slavery, having to go through segregation. Our
Mhm.
ancestors were literally killed to fight for us to be here right now. So it's like as a Black person, that's one of the main things that keeps me going. Like, of course, I love being in medicine and helping people and everything else, but that sense of understanding between us Black people, I think it's a beautiful thing. I really love it, especially in medicine. I know, for just a little story, my doctor, my primary care physician, is actually a Black woman. So yeah. So imagine me at 16, 17 years old, getting to that age where you need a primary care doctor, you have to get checkups every year. Imagine me coming from a pediatrician, walking into the doctor's office, going into the room, and a Black woman comes in. That instant sigh of relief that I felt as a 17, no, seriously, as a 17-year-old woman, it was just like, okay, she gets it. Like, all right, I can
Mhm.
let my guard down. She's gonna understand where I'm coming from. Me and her we can talk about boys, we can talk about medical school, we can talk about the
Mhm.
PWIs we went to, we can talk about anything. And so for me, that's what really solidified it too. I was like, I want my patients to feel that sigh, that breath of fresh air when I walk in the room. I want them to say, "All right, she gets it. She's there for me. She's here for me. That's my girl. She gonna always be there for me." So it's kind of like I said, being black in medicine, like you said, it's very humbling. Like it's such a great experience, especially for me being a woman. You know.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that because, where I'm from, I've definitely never seen a black physician. So it's
Seriously.
really
Wow. See, for me, I'm actually from a small town in Virginia, so for we my town, we have to go maybe 20 or 30 miles just to go to the doctor. It's very rural. And so when you do get like that physician that you really like, we tend to stick with them for a long time. And so my aunt actually before me, she also had a black physician too that she stayed with for like 30, yeah, 30, 40 years. She just retired maybe 2 years ago. But yeah, she said the same thing too. Just having that doctor there for her, understanding her 100%, that's who she stuck with. And I want to be that for my patients. It's funny that you said you haven't seen like a you didn't see a black doctor. When was the first time you saw a black doctor?
I've seen probably like a year and a half ago. He's a not a physician, a pharmacist. He came in and he
Okay.
gave me a flu shot. But yeah, no, it's where I'm from is not a lot of color. Not a lot of color.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can
I
count all
got
the people of color on my hand. So
Got you, got you. Speaking of where you're from, so how did you find out about your medical school? How did you get into med school? Like how did you do that? What was your research like process to going into med school? Because everyone has a story, everyone has a reason why they chose which schools. So what was your main reason for choosing the school that you went to? Was it diversity? Was it what you were learning?
it's what they had to offer me and my
Got
goals for the future. So one
you.
of my
Okay.
goals is to be a bilingual physician, and this starts all the way back from my childhood when I first was introduced to the language of Spanish. Going to school, I just assumed automatically, oh, everyone speaks English. Like I didn't know about different languages, cultures, X, Y, and Z. And I remember in like the second grade, like my classmates would be speaking and they'd be like going like, "Hey, hola, ¿qué tal?" And I was like, what is that? I don't know. What is this like something, you know? And then one of my friends was like, "Oh, I'm speaking Spanish." I'm like, "What is this language?" So the
Mhm.
curiosity was there. I got integrated. And I was like, being a boy, I was like, "Oh my God, it's like a secret language." And my professor or teacher didn't really know what was going on. So I was just like, wow, if I could just learn this language, I could get in on what they're talking about, and my teachers won't know. So it was like kind of like really cool, like getting to like secret languages and spies and stuff like that. So growing up a little bit, fast forward in college, um, the UAG actually came to my school and they're like, "Oh, we offer you an MD degree while you learn Spanish." And I was like, "What? This is like the perfect opportunity to learn both at the same time. This perfectly fits me, like it drops into my lap." And yeah, the rest is history. I applied
The
to
rest is
UAG,
history.
my first school, and yeah, got in.
That's so cool. You're like, well, here we are. I get to learn the language that I want to learn and be a doctor.
Yeah,
Kind of why I
yeah.
chose that's the same reason why I chose my school too. Aside from the language part, I was like, you mean to tell me I can travel and really tell me more. Tell me more about how I can travel the world and be a doctor. Please inform me on how I can do what I want to do. So that's actually really great. And so for I have like think two more questions, but they're pretty vague. They're pretty. I mean, it's what everyone wants to know. Essentially, what everyone asks us our first year, first 2 years. What's your advice for the undergraduate students who are like you, going to college fairs, going to different medical schools, visiting? What's something that you would want to tell them that you wish you told yourself when you were looking at all the information for med school?
Um, I would say a couple of things. So I've heard a couple rumors go around. Is make First of all, there's two stages. Make sure that this is what you really want to do.
Mhm.
Make sure you're not doing it for anyone else because again, med school is a different beast. Studying for undergrad is completely different. I thought I was grinding in undergrad, No, I was not to the level I'm doing now.
Mood story of my life.
100%. I definitely have way less free time now. Like you do have free time, obviously in medical school, but you don't have like how do I say this? Like free time. So like if I want to like go talk to my friend on the phone for like 6 hours, it's like no, I have to kind of schedule that in. If I don't schedule that in, then it's not happening because I have to be on that grind. So just figure out that, and you can do that by shadowing your local physicians, asking a bunch of friends. So one of the biggest things that I didn't have growing up is any physicians in my family. Like I'm the first going to this group out. So I didn't have anyone like, hey, Uncle Ted, can I go shadow you in the ER? Or can you tell me a little bit about this? You know? So I had to do a
Right.
lot of the brute force grind on my own. And I would just say, again, ask your primary care, get to know people, ask some of your peers that have resources. That was really big. So if you see someone like getting all these opportunities and they're like, oh, yeah, my dad's a doctor, be like, hey, how you doing, Sally? Like, can I meet your dad? Just put yourself out there. Because of being a physician, also, there's a huge part of people skills. So once you start learning that stuff now, you're going to be golden. And the second part would be once you actually want to go into this lifestyle, I would say start building up some key skills that you're going to need for medical school. Like for one, definitely reading speed. Increase your reading speed. There's a ton of apps you can get to increase your reading speed because there's a lot of information hitting at you, and you want to be able to comprehend that super fast. And then secondly, typing. Like that is so important because I type everything out, and it's going to help
Yes.
you, especially in rotations. So yeah.
Absolutely. When I tell you during lecture, my classmates laugh at me, but during lecture, I'm typing everything out. I'm typing things. And then after the fact, I like to write them out and make them colorful and everything too. So that whole typing thing and learning how to read fast and understand and comprehend and finding your own path, that's actually golden advice. Like I wish, like you said, I wish somebody would have told me that because I'm the first doctor in my family, the first medical doctor, anyways. My aunt, she's a doctor of education, but what is she gonna tell me about med school? So it's like I had to
Yeah.
kind of I had to figure things out for myself, and it's just like being one of the only doctors, that I know that's a black woman and having to understand yourself and your path. I think you're very spot on with just all the information that you just gave. You gave some real gems. Those are nobody ever told me that. Where were you like 3 years ago?
I just I don't know. I used to be a Boy Scout, so I like being over prepared.
Mhm.
So definitely, yeah. Anything you need advice for, definitely I probably have something for you.
And we love that. We absolutely love that. I'm one of those friends too. I'm the friend where everyone comes to get advice from because they feel like I have my whole life together because this med thing. For real, I be winging it. But but I feel you. I feel you. And that was the last like main question. But another question that a lot of people ask in medical school: how old are you?
So I'm 24 years old. So
24.
kind of
Gotcha.
young.
Gotcha. I'm 23. I asked that because a lot of people feel like there's a certain age you have to be in medical school. I don't know. They feel like a age is such a thing. But I tell this story all the time. There's a guy in my class. It's like I think he's turning 60 this year, and he just got into med
Mhm.
school. So
Yeah, I have the same thing. And if people don't like the IMG perspective, I know a lot of international students who go to different universities. You don't need to have a degree to go to medical school. I know a Jamaican girl who goes to Loma Linda who went at 20 years old. Yeah,
mhm.
20 years old. And she got in, just finished her prereqs, and is rocking it. And I'm like, all right, you go, girl.
You know what? You're the It's funny because Tania, the girl that I did last week, the one that I did with the pre med talk and everything, she said the same thing. She was from Canada, and I when I tell y'all, I did not know that until like after I graduated. You don't even have to major in medicine or anything pre medical related to go to medical school. When I tell
Hmm.
you that's the biggest flex of anybody can say, like, yeah, I still got into medical school. What? Then you get
I would say I would say though, one big thing though, you can do that, but my like being a biochem major does help extremely. I
okay.
would say that. I'm not
Okay,
gonna lie.
So you recommend actually going through the nitty gritty.
Yes, because there is a counterculture saying that, and it's like, yes, that is so true. But if I didn't take my additional classes, like I feel like I over prepared, and that's helping me a ton right now. So
Hmm.
pros and
Got
cons, pros and cons.
pros and cons. For definitely pros and cons. The pros is you're not stressing about that biology exam that you have tomorrow or that biochem. Cons, you don't know biochem or biology. So it's like, that's the
Yeah.
one. That's the one. That's the one. But yeah, is there anything else that you would like to say regarding, our talk, what we talked about, discussed, anything in general medical school related?
Um, I guess I'd like to end it out. Two main points is I usually tell students like, hey, I don't know why this is going around, but some students are just like, mental health. Should should I go to a therapist? Should I not? I've known some people are just like, oh, if I go to a therapist, they're gonna put on my application, and medical schools are gonna be like, oh, he's like mentally unstable, like he shouldn't
Mhm.
be like a student. Like, no, go, definitely go. I think it's so important. I go to therapy. I think it's very helpful, and it like makes you prioritize. You work out situations in your life, and you know this is for yourself, and you have healthy outlets to get your things out. Because I've seen a lot of different classmates not really know how to get out their anger, frustration, or actually know how to study and organize in life, and it definitely makes a huge difference.
Mhm.
So that's the very first point. And second, um, don't put too much stress on yourself. I know a lot of people, there's a, that stigma like, oh, IMGs are bad. Like, why am I going there? But it's just like, if you take all the like talk and like people judging, like, you're still gonna become a doctor. You're still gonna be able to practice in the United States. Like, these programs are set up for you to be back in the United States. Don't be too scared. I know some people are just like, oh, if I go there, I'm gonna have to work extra hard to get back in the United States. Well, that's uh, somewhat true, but like, how are you going to gauge how much you have to work? Don't you want to be the best physician you can be? So you should be trying
Right.
your best regardless of what. So don't worry about if it's an IMG. If it's not, just do your best, and the rest will take care of itself.
Right. I really love that. That was such a perfect way to end the video, especially with therapy, because I know, real quick, just Black people in general, we tend to think down on people that go to therapy a lot, with our religion, and we have a lot of different things that we all go through, our parents have gone through. So what we may be going through as medical students seem medial to them or not enough to, you know, go to therapy or go over the top. But I think it's really important, like you said, to know yourself, to go to therapy, take care of yourself, love yourself, be
Mm.
yourself. Everyone else is themselves too. So you got to be yourself. You have to know yourself and love yourself, and you got to love medicine. At the end of the day, you got to love the field that you're in. You can't be afraid to be an IMG or go to DO school, go to PA school, be a nurse. As long as you're doing what you want to do, that's top tier. That's number one. You're already ahead of so many people in the world because you're doing what you want to do and you know yourself and what you want to do. So
Mhm.
thank you for bringing that up. That was the perfect way to end. Oh, look at us. We're doing the thing.
Yeah.
We're doing the med school thing. But yeah, so we're just gonna wrap this up. Thank you so much, Noel, for sitting down with me, having my second med talk, second medical school video channel, whatever you want to call it. Thank you for sitting down and just giving everyone just hope and making sure that everyone knows that it's okay, of course, to fall down. It's okay to have a different path. But the biggest thing is to get back up and to make sure that you have yourself together because you're gonna be someone's doctor one day. Someone's gonna be looking up to you. So it's very important to just know yourself, be that person for someone else, pass it forward. So with that,
Exactly.
thank you so much. Oh
Mhm.
my
Thanks
gosh.
for having me.
Of
Yeah.
course. Let me see. How do I stop this?